Number 12. Japan's single tax rumor. If you've seen Japanese social media buzzing about something called the single tax, don't be alarmed just yet. The truth is, there's no such tax targeting single people. What's really happening is that Japan is preparing to roll out a new policy in April 2026, officially named the Child Support and Child Rearing Fund. This is an additional fee added to health insurance, meaning almost everyone who works will have to pay it, regardless of whether you're single, married, or your kids are already grown up. So why is the internet calling it a single tax? Simple. People without children will end up paying more than families who receive benefits, making it feel like they're being punished for being single. But the actual numbers are much smaller than the rumors. In 2026, it'll be just about $2 to $3 per month, and by 2028, only $7 to $8 a month, less than the price of a Starbucks coffee in Tokyo. Japan has to do this because it's facing the world's deepest population crisis. In 2023, only about 740,000 babies were born in Japan, the lowest since records began. Even scarier, Japan's fertility rate is just 1.26, much lower than the US at 1.66, the UK at 1.49, France at 1.8, and far below the population replacement rate of 2.1. And the single rate? According to Japan's Ministry of Internal Affairs, 70% of Japanese under 30 are single. And in Tokyo, 1 in 4 men in their 40s have never even been on a date. Some prefectures like Akita have lost up to 40% of their population in just 20 years, turning villages into ghost towns. So, Japan isn't just collecting child-rearing fees, it's also launching unprecedented measures, the largest marriage subsidy in history. Starting in 2026, newlyweds can receive $4,000 to $5,300 to help with rent, moving costs, or even wedding expenses. At the same time, over 40 prefectures are rolling out national AI matchmaking programs, analyzing personality, income, habits, and more, to help people start dating, a government effort to tackle the crisis of no dating. Prime Minister Kishida once said, "Japan is on the edge of losing its ability to function as a society." What do you think? Will these policies help Japan reverse its declining birth rate, or just put more pressure on single people? Leave a comment and let's discuss. Number 11. Japan expands its elder care robot network. When Japan is entering what its own citizens call a national survival crisis, a sharp drop in marriage rates, and the lowest birth rate in history. In 2023, Japan recorded just 727,000 newborns, and by 2024, that number fell below 690,000, with only 670,000 expected in 2025, while the US had 3.7 million births. By 2026, Japan may have only 650,000 babies. The result, Japan is becoming the fastest aging country on Earth, with 30% of its population over 65, and the 80-plus age group growing faster than any other G7 nation. According to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the number of people over 75 living alone rose from 7.4 million in 2020 to 8.6 million in 2025, and will reach 9 million by 2026. In Tokyo, 1 in 3 people over 65 lives completely alone, about 31% of the senior population, one of the highest rates in the world. Why? Wages aren't rising fast enough to support families, housing is expensive, people are marrying late or not at all, and divorce rates among those over 60 are climbing. A society that is aging, living alone, and lacking caregivers is forming right before our eyes. With a shortage of over 100,000 caregivers, according to the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare, Japan is taking a path never seen before in human history: robotizing elder care. From 2023 to 2026, Japan is investing heavily in medical robots. From patient lifting robots, diaper-changing robots, bathing robots, fall detection robots, to rehabilitation robots. By 2026, Japan expects to have 17,000 to 20,000 medical robots operating in nursing homes and hospitals. In Kanagawa Prefecture alone, robots are used in 70% of elder care facilities. In fact, Japan leads the world with 400 robots per 10,000 workers, the highest rate globally. International media call Japan the robotized elderly society, silver robot economy, or even aging robot nation. But there's another consequence of so many seniors living alone: the phenomenon of lonely deaths. Every year, over 35,000 people die alone, sometimes going days before being discovered. This has created a unique profession, tokushu soji, or cleaning up after lonely deaths, which is growing by 20% each year. Many prefectures have even set up kotokushi patrol teams, knocking on doors to check if elderly residents are still alive. Number 10. 9 million ghost houses in Japan by 2026. Can you believe it? Japan, a country famous for its order, cleanliness, and modernity, now has over 9 million empty houses, enough for every resident of New York City to have one. This isn't an exaggeration. It's an official statistic from the Ministry of Internal Affairs in 2023. Japanese people call these abandoned homes akiya, and they're popping up everywhere, from snowy villages in Niigata to quiet alleys in Tokyo and Kyoto. According to CNN, Japan's nationwide vacancy rate is 14%, and some prefectures like Wakayama, Kochi, or Akita have rates over 20%, meaning 1 in 5 houses is permanently dark. The problem isn't that Japan built too many houses, but that there aren't enough people to live in them. Researcher Jeffrey Hall puts it bluntly: this isn't a surplus housing problem, it's a people shortage. Sad, isn't it? Many akiya have fallen into disrepair, becoming hazards during disasters, especially earthquakes and tsunamis. Rescue teams say abandoned houses make it harder to reach people in emergencies. Worse, some homes have lost owners with missing paperwork, leaving authorities unsure who to contact when action is needed. Imagine, some of these homes have stood for 70 to 100 years, passed down through generations, but the younger generation has moved to the cities and no one wants to return. Meanwhile, Japan's population keeps plummeting. Some prefectures have lost 40 to 60% of their people in just 20 years, turning many towns into literal ghost towns. On social media, you might see videos of foreigners buying Japanese houses for $1 or $10. But the reality is very different. Most akiya aren't sold to foreigners, the paperwork is complicated, and many homes are in places with no buses, no hospitals, and not even a convenience store. Number 9. Japanese tourism faces a downturn in 2026. Japan, always one of the world's top tourist destinations, is now unexpectedly facing its first drop in international visitors since the COVID-19 pandemic. According to Nikkei Asia, January 8th, and the latest report from JTB, Japan's largest travel agency, international arrivals in 2026 are expected to fall by 3% to 41.4 million, instead of continuing to break records as in the past 2 years. The biggest bottleneck is the Chinese market, which accounts for about 20% of all international visitors to Japan. After Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi's comments about Taiwan in November 2025, Beijing urged its citizens to limit travel to Japan, and recently, China cutters suspended about 40 flight routes to Japan. The result? Chinese visitor numbers in November 2025 grew by only 3%, far below the previous double-digit rates. In the first 11 months of the year, they reached 8.76 million, about 90% of 2019 levels, while visitors from the US, Europe, and South Korea have already surpassed pre-pandemic numbers. But the problems aren't just external. Japan is also facing infrastructure limitations, a fact many tourists in 2025 have already noticed. Labor shortages in the service, airline, and hotel industries mean the number of flights can't increase, even though demand is high. Many hotels in Tokyo and Osaka are fully booked year-round, forcing tourists to stay in nearby areas. This is happening even as Japan aims for an ambitious goal: 60 million international tourists by 2030, a number now seen as possibly unrealistic. But did you know? 2025 was actually a tourism boom year. JTB estimates international visitors reached 42.6 million, up 16% from 2024. From January to November 2025 alone, Japan welcomed 39.06 million visitors, surpassing the 2024 record of 36.87 million. A weak yen and Japan's cultural appeal have driven strong growth from the US, Europe, and the Middle East. The UNWTO even ranked Japan as one of the world's fastest-growing tourist destinations. But if the 2026 forecast comes true, it will be the first decline since 2021, when global tourism nearly shut down. Number 8. Japan drops to the world's fifth-largest economy. For decades, Japan was the symbol of the Asian economic miracle, holding the world's second-largest economy spot from the 1980s to the early 2010s. But now, this once undefeatable industrial powerhouse is hitting a shocking milestone. In 2026, Japan is expected to be overtaken by India, dropping to the world's fifth-largest economy, according to the latest IMF forecast. Japan's nominal GDP is projected to reach about $4.463 trillion, while India, growing at a remarkable pace, could surpass $4.7 trillion, officially pushing Japan down the global rankings. What's causing a country with top technology, advanced robotics, and global giants like Toyota, Sony, and Panasonic to fall behind? You might be surprised to learn the answer has more to do with demographics and consumption than technology. Over the past decade, Japan's population has steadily declined, losing more than 2.4 million people, and is expected to lose another 500,000 per year from 2026 onward. The elderly population is rising fast, the younger population is shrinking, and domestic consumption is weakening. When retirees outnumber workers, the economy loses its fuel for growth. Meanwhile, a persistently weak yen has sharply reduced Japan's GDP in dollar terms. Just a drop from 110 to 150 yen per US dollar wipes hundreds of billions off Japan's global ranking. That's why in recent years Japan has been overtaken by Germany and now India, with its 1.4 billion people and the world's youngest workforce, is next. Number 7. Cost of living swings in Japan. If you've ever thought Japan was a place with stable prices, rising slowly like a turtle, then 2026 is a wake-up call. Japan is experiencing its longest cost of living crisis in over 40 years, with inflation exceeding the Bank of Japan's 2% target for 45 straight months. While overall inflation has been brought down to around 2.1%, that's only because the government spent billions subsidizing electricity and fuel. Food, energy, and housing still climbing every month. As some locals joke, but it's true, $20 used to fill a shopping bag, now it barely buys 2 or 3 items. Have you felt this too? According to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, MIC, in 2025, 80% of households believe prices will keep rising, while real wages have fallen for the 3rd year in a row. Nominal wages have gone up, but after inflation, Japanese people are actually getting poorer. Rice, the most important staple, has risen to $8 to $10 for 11 pounds, nearly a record high. Everyday vegetables like cabbage, once $1, now often cost $2.50 to $3 per head. Beef prices have soared due to a weak yen, with imported meat up 15 to 20%. A student in Kyoto told Asahi Shimbun, "Wanting to eat meat 3 to 4 times a week is tough. I mostly eat instant noodles at 60 cents a pack." Energy bills are the biggest burden. Without government subsidies, the average household's electricity bill would rise 20 to 30%, from $110 to $140 per month to nearly $160 per month METI and Nikkei Asia. Japan imports 96% of its energy, so every shift in global markets hits consumers' wallets directly. Many families are cutting back on air conditioning, doing laundry at off-peak hours, or replacing old appliances to save every dollar on electricity. Housing is also more expensive than ever. Average rent in Tokyo has shot up, with small apartments, 270 to 320 square feet, rising from $1,000 per month to nearly $1,500. In Osaka, a 6% increase has pushed typical apartment rents from $600 to $650. In Kyoto, a new tourism tax has added $5 to $10 per night to hotel rates, raising living costs for locals. It's no surprise that young people in Japan are changing their spending habits. 62% are switching to 70-cent items, eating out less, and cutting back on entertainment. Even though wages are expected to rise slightly in 2026, Nikkei Asia warns that Japan's GDP will still slow down due to weak consumption and high import costs. Number 6. Tokyo ranks among the world's most stressful cities. Tokyo, a city of dazzling neon lights, marked trains running by the minute and towering skyscrapers, has also made it into the top list of the world's most stressful cities in 2026, according to international surveys like Statista and Time Out. Japanese people work an average of 2,000 hours per year, more than the US at 1,811 hours, and much higher than Germany's 1,386 hours. The sight of Tokyo's morning trains, like rush hour hell, is legendary. Station staff literally push people into the cars to get the doors closed on time. Can you imagine this happening in New York or Chicago? Tokyoites themselves call lines like the Chuo or Yamanote stress belts. The cost of living makes everything worse. With wages barely rising, young people in Tokyo have to work extra jobs, save aggressively, or live in mini apartments under 110 square feet, smaller than a standard American bedroom. That's why, in 2026, Tokyo's government launched the Mental Health Tokyo Plan to reduce mental stress for residents. The campaign has 4 main initiatives. First, Tokyo expanded its free mental health hotlines, increasing the number of counselors online and at community centers. The city aims to cut wait times for counseling to under 10 minutes. Second, major train stations like Shinjuku, Tokyo, and Ikebukuro now have quiet rooms, where stressed commuters can sit, have a drink of water, and calm down before moving on. Third, Tokyo is encouraging companies to reduce overtime by offering tax breaks for those adopting no overtime days, and by providing mental health training for employees. Fourth, the city is piloting stress-free zones in Yoyogi and Ueno parks with relaxation spaces, breathing exercises, and community wellness programs on weekends. Number 5. 10% of Japan's population is now foreign. As of now, the number of foreigners living in Japan has reached 3.76 million, the highest ever. Previously, research institutes predicted that foreigners wouldn't make up more than 10% of Japan's population until 2070. But local data shows it's happening much sooner. As of January 2026, 27 municipalities already have over 10% foreign residents. The most notable is Shimukapu Village in Hokkaido, where foreigners make up 36.6% of the population. Another example is Tobishima Town in Aichi Prefecture. Out of 4,713 residents, 501 are foreigners, about 10.6%. In the evenings, it's easy to see many foreign workers biking home from factories. On weekends, nearly half the bus passengers in town are foreigners. Most work under technical intern or specified skills visas, programs designed to address Japan's severe labor shortage. Many Tobishima locals say they've gotten used to this change. Some say foreign workers are hardworking and willing to help with simple tasks. However, some older residents worry about the growing number of people unfamiliar with Japanese customs. For those who've lived their whole lives in small towns, constant change can be hard to adapt to. On the other hand, local businesses see foreign workers as indispensable. A parts manufacturer near Nagoya says that out of 21 employees, 4 are Chinese. The company president says bluntly, "If they all quit, we couldn't keep the business running." The reason? Many young Japanese have left rural areas for the cities, making it impossible for local companies to hire enough staff. Meanwhile, Japan's population keeps shrinking. In 2022 alone, Japan lost over 800,000 people. By 2040, the workforce is expected to shrink by another 15 million. As the number of working-age Japanese drops quickly, the foreign population is rising by 300,000 to 350,000 per year, much faster than previous forecasts. Number 4. Record high adult dependence in Japan. In 2026, Japan continues to see a strong and almost irreversible social trend. Single adults living with their parents, often called parasite singles, Previously, this was mostly seen among people in their 20s and 30s, but now it includes those in their 40s and 50s, and the numbers keep rising. According to Japan Times and the Ministry of Internal Affairs, in 2026, the rate of unmarried 20 to 49-year-olds living with their parents has topped 26%, the highest since records began. In big cities like Tokyo, the high cost of living means many young people stay at home simply because they can't afford rent. Nationwide surveys in 2025 to 2026 show that 60 to 80% of unmarried young people still live with their families, depending on the region. This is part of why Japan's birth rate keeps dropping, below 720,000 babies in 2026, an all-time low. But behind these numbers is a heavy burden on aging parents. The Ministry of Internal Affairs says about 22% of people over 60 still provide financial support to their adult children, from food and electricity to medical bills. This number keeps rising, as those in social isolation in 2026 are estimated at over 2 million, more than 600,000 higher than in 2020. Meanwhile, the dependent adults themselves worry about their future. Low wages, part-time jobs, little savings, and rising living costs leave them unsure how they'll survive after their parents pass away. Experts worry this group will become a major burden on the social welfare system in the next 10 to 20 years, as they shift from depending on parents to relying on the government. In this situation, one trend is booming like never before: matchmaking events for parents. Living Marriage, a matchmaking company, says the number of events they organize has tripled from 2017 to 2025, and demand is still rising in 2026. Here, parents bring their children's resumes to find suitable matches. If both families agree, they exchange contact information, and the children meet up later. Number 3. The boom of mega entertainment projects. 2026 is seen as a turning point for Japan's entertainment industry. The country is investing heavily in projects to attract tourists, boost spending, and capitalize on pop culture. The most anticipated event is Pokepark Kanto, the world's first outdoor Pokemon theme park. It's not just a new tourist spot, but also a test for Japan to expand entertainment tied to global brands. And while local officials expect the park to draw millions of visitors each year and create thousands of jobs, just when Japan's economy needs more tourism dollars. At the same time, the anime industry is entering its strongest phase of international collaboration ever. In 2026, Netflix signed major content deals with top studios like MAPPA, Toho, Production IG, and WWIT Studio, the teams behind hits like Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Chainsaw Man. These deals give studios more stable funding and Netflix-exclusive content for global markets, especially the US and Europe. The boom in these projects shows one thing: pop culture is becoming a key economic engine for Japan. With a shrinking population, weak domestic spending, and struggling retail, Japan is focusing on products with global appeal, like anime, manga, and gaming brands. Opening theme parks, boosting production partnerships, and expanding international markets are how Japan plans to keep its cultural export status for decades to come. Number 2. Japan's defense budget hits record high in 2026. In 2026, Japan approved a $58 billion defense budget, the highest in its modern history and the 12th consecutive year of rising military spending. That's up nearly 9.4% from the previous year, mostly to counter increased military activity from China, Russia, and North Korea around Japan's southwest seas. It's also a step toward meeting the goal of defense spending at 2% of GDP by 2027. The standard the U.S. urges its allies to maintain. Most of the new budget goes to long-range missiles. Japan is investing heavily to upgrade the Type 12 missile, each which can now strike targets over 600 miles away, a major shift for Japan's military, which used to focus only on territorial defense. Tokyo is also spending more on a next-generation fighter jet program in partnership with the UK and Italy to replace aging planes in the next decade. A notable budget item is $641 million for the SHIELD project, a new coastal defense system designed to detect, track, and intercept warships or aircraft near the Nansei Islands. This is seen as the most sensitive defense line, close to Taiwan and areas where China often sends ships. Japan is also ramping up investments in unmanned systems, as its military faces a personnel shortage due to an aging population. Over $7 million is allocated to test long-endurance drones, along with autonomous sea and underwater vehicles for surveillance. A key part of the 2026 budget is $193 million for developing hypersonic weapons. All these expenses are part of a $286 billion 5-year defense upgrade plan. The goal is clear. Japan needs to modernize its entire defense capability before the regional security situation gets even more tense, especially around Taiwan and the East China Sea. Number 1. Japan restarts Fukushima nuclear reactors in 2026. In 2026, Japan made its most controversial decision since the Fukushima disaster in 2011, restarting a series of nuclear reactors that had been offline for over a decade. According to the Ministry of Economy and Industry, Japan plans to bring more than 10 reactors back online in 2026, including 4 that have been hibernating for 10 to 13 years in Fukushima, Miyagi, Niigata, and Kagoshima. This is the first time since 2011 that Japan is reactivating so many reactors at once, aiming to lower electricity costs and reduce reliance on imported natural gas. Why do this? Since shutting down most nuclear plants in 2011, household electricity prices have risen by 30 to 40%, while industrial users have seen nearly 60% increases due to heavy dependence on LNG from the US, Qatar, and Australia. In winter 2025, Japan issued its first severe power shortage warning, forcing the government to rethink its energy strategy. Officials insist that to ensure energy security and keep electricity prices stable, nuclear power must return. But public opinion is deeply divided. Urban youth mostly support the restart, arguing Japan can't keep paying sky-high power bills when nuclear safety technology has improved so much. They point out that Japan's nuclear safety standards are now among the strictest in the world, even tougher than the US or Europe. On the other hand, many people living near Fukushima, especially families who had to evacuate in 2011, strongly oppose the move. They fear restarting could lead to new accidents, especially with reactors that have been idle for so long. Groups like Mothers Against Nuclear Restart continue to demand the government prioritize solar and wind over nuclear. According to an NHK survey in December 2025, 47% of Japanese support the restart, but 44% oppose it, showing the nation is almost evenly split. Still, the government is determined to pursue its Nuclear Back Online 2030 plan, aiming to raise nuclear power's share from 6% to 20 to 22% within 4 years. 2026 proves that Japan is no longer the stable and slow-to-change country many once thought it was. In your opinion, what's Japan's biggest challenge in 2026? And can the country change its fate? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next documentary.